Hello, and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by three friends who love cinema. I'm Gus, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Nathan and Alvaro. Tonight, you'll be staying in room 110, Licorice Pizza, the latest film by the master Paul Thomas Anderson. So go ahead, get comfortable, and throw on that Do Not Disturb sign as we take a bite out of Licorice Pizza.
I'm not gonna forget you.
Who's in the best-selling show?
Just like you're not gonna forget me.
What's going on, all you Valley boys and girls? Thanks for checking back into the Grand Cinema Hotel. We have an absolutely great one for you this week, and just wanted to give a big shout out to everybody that's been watching our videos and liking and commenting. We're seeing even more comments than we have before, so super exciting. We had the ability to see Licorice Pizza a little bit early, a few weeks early, so we went ahead and took that opportunity, and that's what we're presenting you with you today.
Hey guys, Gus here. This was on my most anticipated list, so I was definitely excited that we got the chance to see this early. If you guys have been keeping up with Licorice Pizza and its release or its lack thereof, this movie's been like really elusive and hard to find, right? They'd only been showing it in LA for a couple of weeks at the Regency, but we got lucky we got to see a showing at the Irvine Spectrum, and that theater was crazy. I had never been there.
I think I've been there, but not since they had redone it like they have it now.
Have you ever been there, Ro?
What's up, guys? Ro here. No, never been there. I thought it was interesting that got too close to not watching it.
Yeah.
Something I didn't expect.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that right now. But one last thing I wanted to say about the theater was that I haven't seen the new Space Jam, but when we walked in, I was like, this looks like the new Space Jam.
Yeah, I felt like I was in a spaceship for sure.
We were in the metaverse.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to describe it.
So we got access to an early screening because they were showing it in our area finally. So we took advantage of that. We were going to see Don't Look Up and maybe have that episode for you guys. But
they can wait.
Yeah,
we decided to push it. It's PTA.
Yeah,
baby.
come on, man. It's PTA. Sorry, Adam.
No comparison.
We'll get to you. We'll get to you.
Yeah.
But the experience of getting to the theater was probably the most stressful one we've had so far.
Easily the most stressful.
Yeah.
So we thought we would have enough time. Like, okay, we're gonna go hang out at Nate's house, kick it with him and his brother. Then we'll go get some food. We'll drop his brother off, and then we'll get to the theater right on time, right? But the restaurant we went to, they totally fucked us.
They did. They knew that we were. I didn't even know.
They knew we were on the job,
Yeah,
man.
I was like, we're on the clock right now. Like, they totally lost their order, and it took way too long.
I think, yeah, we got pushed to the back of the line too. It was just awful. I'm never ordering first again.
What sucks is I love that place. I know you guys do too.
Yeah.
And they were as nice as they could be about trying to make it up, but then they were still taking forever. So
yeah, they really put us on the clock.
We did keep throwing the idea. I know Gus brought it up first, but we were kind of stressed out because we were thinking this is an early screening. What if there are no like opening trailers?
And there wasn't.
And there wasn't. We literally got down, sat down, and a minute later the movie started.
3 minutes.
trailer drop.
Yeah.
No,
trailer.
The
The like silence your
title
cell
card.
phones and all that kind of
MGM,
stuff.
the MGM card dropped.
I never want to be that stressed out going
No.
to see a movie again.
But we made it. We saw it. And it was incredible, and now we're here to talk about it with you guys. So
how are you feeling going into this? I know we discussed it in our most anticipated episode. Obviously, we were excited.
Going into it, I mean, obviously, PTA, super excited. I know that we all have him super high on our directors list of favorite directors. So just to see him come back after being gone for a few years was super exciting. I know that when we had first seen the trailer, I specifically, you couldn't really get a read on exactly what this movie was going to be from the trailer, I felt.
Yeah.
So I was a little skeptical because it had looked like a movie that has been done before.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like coming of age, romantic, maybe comedy. But that's how I felt going into it.
Yeah,
so.
it's not exactly the most original concept of like with coming of age high school kid stories, but it really is its own thing.
Yeah. The way that they presented this was phenomenal.
I feel like the trailer doesn't leave you with any clue what this movie's actually going to be about, except a relationship between a boy and a girl.
The trailer does do a good job in kind of establishing the vibe of this movie.
Yeah.
Because I felt like the movie did kind of follow how the trailer set it out to be. So, yeah, going into it, I was excited.
Okay.
I think this movie only gets done and is done well because it's Paul Thomas Anderson, because he grew up in that area.
At that time.
It's just like Quentin Tarantino's Love Letter, but it's also how good he is at directing, how good he is at handling the camera, because he gets all his DP credits too, you know?
Yeah, he shares it. Well, I know he shared it with Phantom Thread. It's like a collective effort, and with this one, it was him and a guy named Michael Bauman.
So to write it, direct it, and then do the camera, this was
So, and I think that's why he's high up in our list of like some of the greatest to do it. But I think that's why this film works very well. That's why we love this movie very well. It might have been we've seen a love story between coming of age, like you said, but it's not like this. This is very unique. It's him doing it. And I think that's why his name carries so much weight.
I think the reason this story is so specific, which it really is because a lot of the things that happen in this movie are based on true stories of a producer named Gary Getzman that Paul Thomas Anderson is known for a long time. And a lot of these stories just come from like things that guy Gary would tell Paul Thomas Anderson. So like he really was a child actor, and he was in a movie with Lucille Ball, right? So like one of the characters in the movie is a stand-in for Lucille Ball. She's not supposed to be her, but it's just very similar, right? And then when that didn't really work out, he really did start selling waterbeds, and then he really did start a pinball palace.
just doing different kind of hustle.
Yeah, so he really was a hustler like that. And I know Paul Thomas Anderson said in an interview, like, I would be lying. Here we go. He said, as a child actor, I can't remember at this point if I'm trying to pretend that it's not Gary's story, but fuck it, it's him. Yeah, like that this is Gary's life with a little bit of Paul's own stuff thrown in there.
On it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So just to give you guys, I mean, I'm sure everybody listening probably knows what this movie is about, but the little synopsis of what it is the story of Alana Kane and Gary Valentine growing up, running around, and going through the treacherous navigation of first love in the San Fernando Valley in 1973. So just kind of sets it up. Once again, what is this movie really about? You know, like we said, it's a coming of age, it's a romantic story, but it's the way that this movie is done that really gives it its weight.
I would say if you want to know what this movie's about without us spoiling it, which we're definitely not planning on doing, being able to see it like 14 days before its release, it seems like a dickhead move for us to just straight spoil it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like other movies where some of them have been on Netflix or some of them have been out for already a week. And there's a chance to go see it, but
I know sometimes we endorse it because we feel that people aren't going to watch it anyway. So maybe if you hear me break it down, but this one's going to get watched.
Yeah, definitely. I like what you said, because with other movies, maybe like Lamb or Titan, I knew not as many people were going to want to go see that. So if they could hear me describing it and they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I need to go see that.
Little extra push to go see it.
Yeah.
This movie does not need that, I don't think. So yeah.
No.
I think we'll stay on the not spoiling side.
Non-spoiler side. If we happen to spoil anything, we'll apologize. I'll try to give a warning if it seems like we're getting spoilery. Mute your ears or something like that.
Yeah.
Take out the headphones. But I would say the easiest way to describe this film is two people who are in the most simple terms, just trying to navigate their way through life. And I know that sounds obvious for a coming of age movie, but Gary being a 15-year-old kid and Alana being a woman in her 20s, Gary's very emotionally mature for his age, and Alana is very immature for her age. So it's just like this, the way their interactions kind of balance them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's like the way that they kind of interact with each other, and she becomes friends with his friend group almost, and you kind of get this weird comedic, this older woman is hanging out with these kids, and it just, that's kind of how the story goes.
I know you have a little something to say about the age dynamic in this movie.
Yeah, I do. I mean, because that's what a lot of the critique I've seen about is how can you
this is offensive.
Yeah,
and
how
disgusting.
can you show something like this? But I mean, this entire movie, to me personally, it does feel like a fantasy dream type of movie.
Yeah.
The way that it's shot with, the cinematography,
the grain
on
the
it,
haze that it
lens
gives.
flares,
Yeah.
the music. And just how going through this story, these characters get into all kinds of, shenanigans, I guess I'll say.
Yeah.
And they get put in situations where there should be consequences, and they're not. There's basically no consequences for any of these characters going through this. So I think that's how this movie is meant to be took, as a dream, as a fantasy. So just for people to, I don't know, shit on this movie so hard because of one aspect of it, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, I don't condone that, you know what I mean?
The Grand Cinema Hotel does not condone 25-year-old women being in relationships with 15-year-old
I'm not going to say that
boys.
that's good
Yeah.
or anything, but to just completely discredit this film because of that plot is...
We
I
saw
think
something similar with The Last Duel.
You're missing the point of the movie, I think, so...
Yeah, guys, sometimes movies are going to make you uncomfortable because, they're not all Marvel movies. They don't tell you who the good and bad guys are. There's some gray area, so get used to it. Use your grown-up eyes and ears because these things happen, and I would much rather they happen in movies than in real life,
Yeah,
right?
so like, and I don't think it necessarily glorifies it in
No,
any way
no, no.
either.
And I also think that he handled it with a lot of care.
I
There
do
was
too.
there was a big like innocence factor to it. You know what
There
I mean?
was.
It wasn't. I mean, I don't really know what I'm saying, I guess, but I just didn't see it as a nasty thing. I would say.
And yeah, I think that if the film maybe went in some different directions, it could have been
Yeah.
a very bad thing, but it kept it very light and, so
I mean, it's the ultimate teenage male fantasy. This
it
movie.
is. That's why, like, it really is just, it's like a fantasy dream world. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this kid is, like, I don't know, air quotes, the man. Like, he
Yeah,
starts
yeah.
businesses. All the girls love him. Like,
He's an
like,
actor.
To me, this character, like, if you guys have seen The Other Guys, Will Ferrell's character, Gator, just like how, for whatever reason, every woman in every situation is just in love with this man. That's how
He's Captain
Gary is in
Charisma.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, so it's a dream. It's a fantasy.
I want to say, in comparison to PTA's other work, this is easily the most lighthearted and tender movie out of all of his.
That is something else I wanted to bring up, is because he does have films like There Will Be Blood and like Phantom Thread that do feel like more like grandiose type movies, heavy movies, and then he has some smaller movies like Heart 8 and Boogie Nights kind of teeters a line on both of them, I feel like, but this movie is very like grounded and it's small and it's warm.
His movies always before this always sound like something. That's why you want to watch them. The premise is so like, what? Like it's about either in There Will Be Blood, it's about gas, about oil, and then in Phantom Thread, it's about a designer in what, like the 1800s, right?
No,
Early
it's like the 1950s.
Yeah, and it's like such a niche little thing, but then this one seems very general, and that's why you're like, wow,
Like it's for the masses.
Yeah.
It's not just for one person.
I was reading that the two films that influenced him for this was Fast Times at Ridgemont High and American Graffiti.
Yeah, I've seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I absolutely love that movie, and I think you've seen American Graffiti. No,
I've seen both.
Do you see the comparisons?
Yeah, but it's like a
or the influence? I would
because
say.
I feel like George Lucas did the same thing for American Graffiti.
At
This
that
is my
time.
love for when I grew
car
up.
culture, and is it set in the 60s?
50s. I believe.
Okay, that would make sense because of George Lucas.
Another movie that reminds me of this is Dazed and Confused.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think this falls into the category of like the great hangout films. So Days and
And you
Confused,
said that earlier.
Fast Times at Ridgemont, Jackie Brown, even
Yeah.
things like that, where you can kind of step in at any time if you were watching this movie and be like, oh, this scene's so funny, I love this scene. Or even The Big Lebowski, I think is another
Yeah.
great hangout movie.
It is.
Mean Girls.
Yeah, Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, just movies where you feel like you know every character. And I wrote in my Letterboxd review that I would watch a movie about each individual character.
Yeah.
Like I would watch the movie about just Gary. I would watch the movie about just Solana.
Give me Bradley Cooper spinoff.
Yeah, yeah. You know what though? Because he's it's John Peters, who was a real producer and hairstylist and stuff like that. There are movies that are based on him. There's one called Shampoo, I heard.
Okay.
That is like it's kind of an imagining of his life. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. The cast, I thought it was pretty amazing that Paul Thomas Anderson was able to pull this out of two actors who've never acted before.
Yeah, because that was another, not red flag, but something that we had talked about was
Yeah, we had mentioned it.
how good can this movie be when these are their first leads? You know?
So, in doing my little research for the pod, Cooper Hoffman is the son of Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's
Rest in
one of the
peace.
great actors.
And a great friend of Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, so
Really good friend.
they're really family friends. And Cooper Hoffman, he used to be in home movies that Paul Thomas Anderson would film on his iPhone with his kids. And Paul Thomas Anderson's kids would be the good guys, and Cooper Hoffman would play the bad guy. And that was like his training, I guess,
That's
you know?
crazy.
And it was like, you know what? I could make a real movie with this kid. And we discussed the connection with Alana Haim and her mom, that she was Paul Thomas Anderson's teacher, and he had shot music videos of them. So it really seems like a close knit,
It
like
is
familial
like a really,
bond.
Yeah,
You
like
know
a
what
very
I mean?
close movie.
I was reading that the scenes with all the Haim family, they're all improvised.
Oh, really?
So the
so
scene that you
funny.
kept bringing up, like when she walks in. And
Oh, her
dad's like-
father is hilarious.
It's like, what the fuck? That was literally first take.
Yeah.
Like just watching her come in like that.
That makes it so much
So
better.
and I think that's where Paul Thomas Anderson's like director power comes from, or like his way is having close relationships with the people he works with.
You know how Scorsese used to show his mom and dad in movies?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that same thing, and then he's able to bring that out of people who quote unquote aren't actors, but he's that good of a director. Like he's like, no, I don't need you. He gets them comfortable. Like just do what you would regularly do. That's why I want to put you in
the
a
best
movie.
directors make
smart.
regular people seem like good
That is really
actors.
smart because I mean you don't even have to build on that chemistry. You can use the chemistry that they've already built
Through years.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like the Safdie brothers like doing that. It's casting people who are not necessarily actors, and there's plenty of like indie filmmakers in the past, like John Cassavetes really pioneered that style of just hiring his like me and my friends are gonna make a movie. Even like what was her name? Gina Rowlands, I believe. Excuse me if I'm wrong on that, but that was his wife. So like he would make movies with his wife, him, and his friends, and like I really feel like I felt that energy in this movie of just everybody being very close knit.
I would agree.
And even the connections between like Cooper Hoffman and his little gang of friends, they didn't really have too much dialogue, but you could just tell like, oh, those are the
They're
homies.
homies.
They're down. Like, let's start a business. Hell yeah, let's
That
start a
reminded me
business.
of when we were that age,
Yeah,
That's like the type of stuff that we
definitely,
were
right?
getting
It's
into.
always on
I mean,
the
even
move.
now that we're a little bit older, I'm like, that's how I feel about us. It's like, all right, we're gonna do this podcast,
Yeah.
and then let's do this, and let's do this.
Hand out
And
some
it's just that
flyers,
little,
yeah.
yeah, it's that little like hustler mentality of like
Yeah.
wanting to just feel important or like making a name for yourself. And I think it's really cool. Like that's something we see often, but I just think Cooper Hoffman has exceptional charisma to really
does.
pull that off and not come off like a little douchebag like some other characters could.
I was so impressed with him in this movie.
Yeah, me too.
I was super impressed with Alana Haim too.
Oh yeah, there was just a certain. She has this like powerhouse effect where she could just explode in
Yeah.
1 second and then
And she's
Reel it right back
it was
in.
Just, they were so fucking funny. Like there was a scene where she was talking with her sister, and her sister basically says like, I think this is good, like what you're talking about, how she can just kind of go from 0 to 100 super fast and it works. Is when she's talking to her sister about they had a big fight with their family, and she's saying like her sister's like, you shouldn't pick fights with everybody or whatever. And Alana Haim basically goes like, "Oh, shut the fuck up, Danielle."
Yeah.
It's just so
My
funny.
best thing, my favorite part about that clip is that usually those scenes are slow to roll up to when someone comes up and talks to them, and they're like crying or something. Usually there's like a very deep emotional like connection.
There's a little build up to
and
it.
there's also like a long conversation, right? But it seemed like it was gonna start like that, and she got up with it. So like the scene's like 10 seconds, 8 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like right in between two big, like large scenes, and it's just so funny because usually that's not something that you should input like such a small clip into something. But it was perfect.
I think it really worked for the comedic effect because this movie was
Exactly.
hilarious.
Yeah, the best way that I can describe, like this movie had a lot of parts, like especially this one, comedic scenes, where it was almost like a jump scare with comedy.
Yeah.
Like it really just came out of nowhere and it hit, you know what I mean? So I really
Because that in that
appreciated
same scene, that what I liked was when she goes off on her other sister about like, oh, I know what you're thinking about, and like that's where I was like, she knows how to act. Like she really turned it up from 0 to 100. All of a sudden, she starts attacking her, starts chasing her out of the room.
And I think it just works because they're family.
Yeah.
Yep, they're just
So,
sisters.
You know how many times that's probably happened?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, I had a really good time, and I can't wait to see this again. Honestly,
That's the thing is when it rolls out and it's full like theatrical release, I'm definitely gonna go see
I've
this
been
again.
seeing some stories about how they're now slashing the Christmas release. Like they're canceling a lot of those dates, and they're gonna like roll it out even slower, which I'm not looking
Wow.
forward to. But I've heard that this is a tactic they use when a movie's doing really well. It's kind of like slow bleeding it. Honestly,
You're just trying to
it's
get
like
like
it's like carrying the
anticipation up
momentum
and-
for as long as you can, like all the way into award
That's what I was
season. I know
gonna say.
something like Shape of Water did the same thing, where
Okay.
they don't want to be left out, so they show it like late in the year, and then just like, okay, we're gonna slowly roll this out so more people can
makes
see
sense.
it and just build up that anticipation. And I
Slowly-
mean, and that's like what we're doing right now. is-
slowly roll it out, get some buzz, roll it out a little more, get even more buzz until
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Something I wanted to bring up was it was interesting. This had never happened to us, but we got like the little screeners QR code before about like what our opinions were for the movie, for before or after. We could have wrote out our thoughts before, which I thought was interesting. But that makes me feel like, is there a possibility that they would change stuff if people didn't like it?
Because that is something else we were talking about. Because in the trailer, there's like 3 or 4 scenes or clips that are not in the movie. So whether or
Yeah.
not there will be adjustments to the final cut of this movie, I don't know. But
What I would want to say, just based off of doing personal editing myself sometimes, and if I was making like a large segment of like a film, I think sometimes because you always over record, it would be best to use stuff that you're not going to use in the movie, just so people have not seen any part of your movie, even in the trailer. Because you know how sometimes we always talk about trailer giving out too much or not giving out enough. Well, you don't have that issue if you just use clips that aren't going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
But still gives you the same vibe of what the movie's about.
I don't know. It's a slippery slope.
It could
because
be.
if you're, I mean, not that I was connected to any one scene in this movie that was, or in the trailer that wasn't in the movie, but I mean, it almost sounds like, what if I showed you not the movie and then you came and saw something completely different? I mean, I know it carries the same vibe
I do
about
think-
what the story is,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Like a movie like this, I think that could work better because it really is just kind of a more vibey type film. Whether other films probably not.
It is
So,
circumstantial, yeah.
yeah, but
So one thing I wanted to talk about was how I was mentioning like the tenderness of this movie and the lightheartedness. I think that now PTA and Tarantino, because these movies are going to be compared to each other, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and this one, just because of the nature of them, they're
The
just
time
reminiscing
period
on
and, yeah.
the best time of their life, quote unquote. I think it has to do with the fact that they're just getting older and like opening up their hearts to like not being so cold and like edgy anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
like
could see that.
in that Variety interview, PTA is just bragging about how he's got my lovely little family and we watch Marvel movies and I just do my silly little writing and I make my silly little
Venom's
movies.
not that bad, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like he's chilling, and I think this is a movie that only a comfortable filmmaker would be willing to do.
Yeah, I can
And I felt the same way about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Is like at that time Tarantino had gotten married and now he has a kid, and I'm not surprised that his movies are not as ultra violent and all the other things that come with Tarantino movies, you know. And I felt the same way about this one because a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's work is so heavy. There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread, Punch Drunk Love, Boogie Nights. Like they're asking these really, really big questions about like American life, and this one, those things are in the background. They're still there, especially with the Alana character. But because it's Gary and he's a 15-year-old kid, he's got 15-year-old kid attitude where this is important for me for 10 minutes and then it's not.
I was going to say, because you had brought up in the most anticipated episode about how he was writing something else and he thought it's too much.
Too much.
It
I don't
was
want to do this
It's
right
too
now.
heavy.
Yeah.
And then that's what you get from this movie. It seems like a very good, lighthearted break. The issues that are in this movie there's the big bad guy or there's death or stuff like that. It's very coming of age, very easy. Maybe
I think Nate was
easy
talking
for
about
him to
the
write.
no consequence thing.
Mhm.
And then
No
like, you know what, when you're a
consequences.
15-year-old, there really isn't that many
aren't.
consequences, you know?
Exactly. No, I like what you said because I'm like you said, like I mean, There Will Be Blood and Phantom Thread, like those movies do touch on things.
Or The Master even.
Yeah,
like that's one of the
Master
darkest
is
ones,
so
you know?
dark.
I think the last time he was dealing with something like this that wasn't so heavy is Inherent Vice.
Yeah.
And I think it's those when
Yeah,
he's
it
with
totally
the
is.
Valley, it's like
Exactly.
it's not as heavy, you know?
Yeah. He's like, we're back home today.
Yeah, because Boogie Nights really like teeters that line
That's-
between being heavy, not being heavy, being heavy, not being heavy.
Exactly. Because like when I was talking about like comparing, like when I say that his films are like grandiose and like that is what I mean, like, you know, and yeah, Boogie Nights hit teeter the line for sure.
Did you guys? I thought this was interesting. Did you guys cast the John C. Riley?
Yes.
I did. Yes.
We're not gonna give it away, but there was a
Yes.
small cameo. It was so
It was
funny.
perfect.
I wanted to look over at you guys, but I was like, we're at an early screening. It's PTA. We must be surrounded by cinephiles. I can't. I'm going to be on my best behavior today.
I did feel like. Did you guys feel like so? Like watching the movie, like the comedic elements, like stuff was funny, but I felt like the audience almost overlaughed on some parts. Do you think that was because this is like an early screening, so that like people are more like maybe
mean,
like us?
I had a couple of LOL moments.
I mean, I did too, but it
Right.
just like I feel like I haven't been in a theater where people were laughing like that together in like a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if you.
I
felt
thought
that
it
way,
was
but-
no. I guess I was gonna say to compare. It's interesting because the lady that was next to me. It's always interesting how these people came to watch this movie, but the lady next to me didn't laugh. She didn't like. She just sat the same way the whole time I was watching the movie.
You know, my sister's kind of like that. I used to tell my sister, she'd be like, that movie was so funny. I loved it. I'm like, then why didn't you laugh the entire time? You just sat there with a straight face.
Stone Cold Killer.
Some people are just like that. But I think what you're saying with the like maybe people are over laughing, I think that has less to do with us and more to do with the fact that there's not as many good comedies in the theater. So now it's like a foreign thing to us. Like, why is
It's like,
everybody
holy
laughing?
shit, that
right?
was funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because this movie was fucking.
Because we grew up in the
hilarious.
golden age of like Will Ferrell comedies and The Hangover and all that
We did
stuff,
get
and
spoiled.
we were really spoiled with all those. Like, there was something good to see every couple months, you know.
It's all perspective, I think, because Ironically, I saw a discourse online about this girl who didn't like the movie, obviously.
Who cares?
But she,
No, I'm
was
kidding.
saying, but she was saying how she didn't understand why everybody kept laughing at the tacky jokes. So that's like, I think I just bring that up for perspective because maybe they are tacky. I don't know, but to me, they were fucking hilarious.
I was laughing.
Or and I can't. We talked about this in other episodes, like a comedy like the ones you just mentioned that we grew up with. I haven't seen one of those in the theater, and like this has a lot of those elements of the stuff that I would think is funny. With like some of the stuff that the guys end up doing when it's just the boys hanging out, we talked about.
Yeah,
it. Like
yeah.
that shit that I did do when I was 15, and maybe it's because I'm a stupid boy, you know. But it was funny. It's just a shadow of them doing it too. It's just so well executed, and you're getting it from her perspective. So it's just so well done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a movie about 15-year-old boys and a 25-year-old woman, so it's gonna have those moments,
Yeah.
you know, especially when one is emotionally stunted and one is way too mature for their age. That alone is always funny when you see a kid and you're like, "Who are you?"
Yeah, like what the fuck are
Yeah,
you doing here? Yeah,
yeah, right. Speaking of like the comedic stuff and like people having problems with this, like there's John Michael Higgins is in this movie.
Oh my
and
god.
how is that not the most problematic aspect
That's
of this
what I'm
entire
like.
film,
This
right?
dude was like so racist towards Japanese people as a whole, and nobody's talking about that. But
Yeah, and not to rat out our theater, but people thought that was
people
hilarious.
were dying at that. Yeah, I mean, it is. It
was funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Like it is funny, but
It was funny because of how uncomfortable it was.
it's like if we're gonna pick apart things that are good or bad, you got to pick apart everything that's good or you know what I mean. You can't pick and choose. So, oh my god, he was so fucking funny.
yeah, John Michael Higgins just knows how to. He comes in and he has these little moments in his movies where you're like, that was so funny.
I like that you brought up the movie Fired Up after
yeah.
we've seen it because it's like he just takes that character and it's
It's
just
the
in
same
this
one.
movie
Yeah,
again.
it's the same one.
he's a funny character actor because he
he
basically just comes in for small comedic effect and
Yeah.
everything.
That
he's
is so
in.
funny that you brought that movie up. 'Cause
Fired
that's like
Up?
a movie that I went in high school to go watch in the theaters. I
See?
seen that one in the theaters.
They wouldn't even make that movie
No,
now, and
they
it's just a
wouldn't.
dumb comedy.
It's just
Yeah.
dumb.
yeah, that was the whole point of that movie.
That's
It
that's
was
where
dumb.
he does the fingers, right?
Yeah, spirit fingers.
Yeah, spirit fingers.
See, oh
That
my
move
God.
is prohibitado. It's so dangerous. We have to say it in Spanish. Or I had even brought up that I like him in the Pitch Perfect movies
Yeah, I do
because he
too.
plays that
It's like the
contest
same type
judge.
of person, you know, just fucking.
If you want to inject some quick comedy, John Michael Higgins
he's
is
your
your
man.
guy.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Bradley Cooper time. Should we talk Bradley Cooper?
Yeah, dude, let's talk about him. He killed it.
He killed it in such
good.
limited time.
I mean, I definitely expected him to be in the movie for longer than he was.
He felt like he was this boogeyman that was hanging over the film, right?
Yeah.
Like he was going to be the consequences.
Exactly. I was
right?
waiting for him to, you know, I'm not going to get into it, but
I thought it was.
I thought of him as like an antagonist, not a villain or something like that. But you know, they
he was somebody that was standing in their way potentially.
yeah.
I have a
Gary
bunch
didn't wasn't the nicest to him. Let's just
No,
say that. Yeah.
exactly.
That's like I found a lot of interesting things as I was doing
About
the
John
research for,
Peters?
like about how he's actually like, because it says this is what I found. It says when Paul Thomas Anderson approached John Peters and described the scene in which he made him a character, Peters said that he would not have actually yelled at Gary had it happened in real life. He would, however, hit on Alana. As a result, Anderson wrote this onto the film.
Yeah. What I had seen, talking about the similar thing with John Peters, is that Paul Thomas Anderson, that this did actually happen.
Yeah.
That Gary gets him and delivered a bed to
That's the
John
other one.
Peters.
Oh, wow.
And
It
that
was
John
like that.
Peters was nice.
Super
and Paul
nice.
Thomas Anderson was like, well, this is boring. I'm going to have to change this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That
then,
makes sense.
not to get off Bradley Cooper, but Sean Penn is also in
Mm-hmm.
this movie. And he's a stand in for a famous actor of that time. I believe William Holden is his name. And in the movie, he plays Jack Holden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he felt like you have to tiptoe a line when you're deciding if you want to actually be the character of a real person or if you just want to do
His idea.
an homage
Like a
to him.
shadow
Yeah,
of
like
the
a shadow
person.
to him. And he felt like with William Holden that he was like, I'm just going to do an homage to him. He's like, because he wanted to work with Sean Penn forever. He said that was on his bucket list. And it's
PTA
funny.
wanted to work with him?
Yeah. And it's funny because of the Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So like
Yeah.
when he makes his version of a hangout movie, that he got someone who inspired him from the other movie, you know?
That is
He got fucking Spicoli. But he said, he's like, I felt like there was no one more iconic. Like what I wanted was an iconic performance. He's like, and who's more iconic than Sean Penn? So
The way that the way that Sean Penn and Tom Waits played off each other in the scene that they were in, I loved it. Like two old people in Hollywood or whatever
Yeah.
that are just spitting bullshit.
It's exactly how you imagine it, right?
Exactly. Just totally like circle jerking each other, basically. Like, it's so fucking funny. Man.
But Bradley Cooper, phenomenal performance for such a small role. Honestly.
He did good. And I know we had talked about it in the most anticipated, but that character was originally might have been Leonardo DiCaprio.
Correct move for it to
Yeah.
be Bradley Cooper.
I-
He brings an entirely different energy.
I really couldn't see Leo doing it like Bradley Cooper did.
Leo has this explosive energy that's very like. It almost seems like he's acting, right? Which he is doing. I know that sounds obvious, but with Bradley Cooper, he's got that energy. It's like it's chaotic, and he falls
exactly
into the
what I was gonna
character.
say.
Where it didn't. Leo is always going to be Leo. I will never see past that.
The way
But with
that
Bradley Cooper, I can see past that.
the way that I would describe it, like you said, is that Leo is explosive and Bradley Cooper is chaotic.
Yeah.
So, and that just fit the role better because this dude is just he's just so all over the place.
I found this cool thing. I didn't catch it obviously because I'm not. I don't know the SFV Valley that well, especially not for 1973. But there's this thing that says when John Peters arrives at the gas station, the song Cherokee People is playing on the radio, and Peters mentions that they're in Chumash territory. The
Oh, yeah,
Chumash
he does
tribe
mention that,
Are
yeah.
a Native American tribe whose origins trace back to the San Fernando Valley. See, but, like that's a perfect thing as to why his character is so good, though. John Peters, it was not like that from what I'm reading at all. He only let him describe him like that because he let him use his favorite pickup line apparently in the movie, and that's why he let him depict him being really mean. But he's a really, really nice guy. But he was my favorite character and side character in terms of all of them, and that says a lot because a lot of the characters in this movie are really, really good. I really like. I know we're still talking about them, but like Benny Safdie's character, I thought that was really good too.
I did too.
He was a nice like side piece. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that Benny Safdie was in it, so that caught me off guard.
He was in the trailer for like half a second.
I
I think
must
it's like
have
him
missed it.
turning around, like it's a face reveal more than
Gotcha.
anything. But he kind of comes in with the when Alana's trying to like figure out her life and be a little more mature.
Yeah, it's like a side plot for Alana, kind of. He gets involved.
Yeah, it's just a different side to, I think, kind of like the more adult side of the film,
Mm-hmm.
because this movie is like the first half is Cooper's movie, but then the second half is Alana's movie.
I would agree.
So they're like co-main characters. It's two people's story, not just one.
They are
person's
both
story.
leads. Yeah.
Yeah. So Benny Safdie really leads into her side of the story when she's trying to kind of branch out and do her
Trying
own
to be
thing.
a politician.
Trying to grow up. Yeah. Yeah. I'm important. I'm a politician.
She's a volunteer for the mayor.
Yeah, she's a volunteer. That's like, it's not like this movie is outright a comedy, but it's just got so much funny stuff in it.
This movie is almost kind of. It's hard to like put a title on it. Like, what is this movie? Like, I want to say it's a rom-com, but
It's not
really
really.
not.
Yeah.
and it's not. I want to say it's a coming of age, but it's not that entirely either.
And it gets an homage in its own way too, like I said, to SFV area, certain actors. It's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Nobody could do it like he can. That's what it is.
Yeah, man. That was a really good time. What do you think? You guys want to keep going? Or should we wrap this up?
I just feel because it's been this is the earliest we've been able to watch a movie that people can't watch. I wouldn't mind revisiting this once
Oh,
everybody has
yeah.
seen it and we could fully break it down.
Dive into
but
it.
if you guys are good,
I don't want to ruin too much for people who haven't seen it yet.
Exactly.
And I feel like I'm getting ready to start doing that.
because this movie is one of the movies that at the end was like, whoa, I know we did the survey. Would you recommend this movie to people? Yes, I want to watch this with as many people who want to go watch it
Yeah.
if I can watch it. It's one of those movies.
The last thing I'll say actually was about the cinematography, which is of course beautiful because Paul Thomas Anderson just knows how to. I know
Oh,
you
yeah.
said what we always say is about making it look like a painting. You know what I mean? Every frame looks like a beautiful painting that you would want in your house. And there's just so many shots in this movie, and like the lighting, the lens flares, right?
Oh my God.
He knows how to use those
Yeah, he's
perfectly.
he's
He's the
good.
king of it.
It's crazy.
I know the meme of It's Good Time, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
Robert Pattinson. He's looking at the guy. And it's like J.J. Abrams using lens flares. You think you're better than me? And it's Paul Thomas Anderson. I know I am.
No, he's so
the
good.
lens
at DP.
flares and the haze and the grain, it just really,
the tracking shots.
yeah, it really carries the dreamlike aspect of this movie.
I think something interesting that Gus said before I think it was on the car ride back. You know how we got really close to missing that first scene? If you miss that first scene in this movie,
You're
you don't
fucked.
get anything else.
You're fucked.
That's how important that first.
I feel like it tells you everything you
and
need
it's
to
such
know.
a beautiful tracking shot.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
that's what I've written down. I know we talk about it, but when we sat down and that first like 2-3 minute tracking shot happened, I knew like this is gonna be good.
You know
Like,
when you're in good hands.
That's exactly. That's what you said, and it's so true. Like just to get the warmth and like you're like, oh, it's like you're visiting an old friend.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what the film. This feels like home footage. And something else to add that I did before we close out, want to talk about is the music. Like just
holy
the audio,
shit, the
like it's
soundtrack?
Johnny Greenwood again. Isn't
It's
it?
Johnny Greenwood with the soundtrack, with the score, and then the
score,
soundtrack
yeah.
itself.
And the soundtrack
Yeah.
itself.
is amazing. Got the David Bowie blasting, right? I know there was a Paul McCartney and Wings song in there. I didn't recognize too many of them. Honestly, the soundtrack is not something I felt like really caught my ear. I was just so caught up in the story and the cinematography more than anything else.
But
I do want to go back. I know you said you were listening to the
I was
soundtrack,
I was playing
right,
the
Nate?
soundtrack on the way here, dude. It's so fucking good.
Just best of the 70s,
Yeah,
right?
It's just really good.
It's because they get the black credit card on. Okay, which songs do you want? Him and
Yeah, they
QT.
pull out the black card.
The black card,
Yeah.
yeah. And they so like, okay, load up this one, and the execs are like, all right, we'll go get it. So that's the only time that there's sometimes when I've wanted to be creative and I use them for my little videos all the time. It's like copyrighted. They don't have that issue, you know.
Yeah,
They're just
no.
like, no, they'll get it done for you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Licorice Pizza should be rolling out around Christmas time. I think the first showings are December 24th. So it's a Christmas movie over the Christmas break. If you want to see something good, this is one that we're definitely recommending.
I would highly recommend this movie.
Did not disappoint. It really did come through for the most anticipated
It's
list.
like I knew it was going to be good, and I still think it exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. I mean, I'm handing them out this year
This
like crazy,
is-
but I think this is an exceptional year for movies.
I have this movie at a 4.5 right now. So
Okay.
Same.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just handing
fucking
them out.
phenomenal. Yeah, like, it's phenomenal.
I don't care.
So-
My 5s are based on feeling more than anything else.
It's
It's
the,
just how I feel when I walk out of the movie.
It is a season of giving. So.
Yeah. There you go, right? I'm handing them out.
I can make no argument as to why this isn't a 5.
Yeah,
bro.
I can't-
But
I
I
You guys are
guess to
just
me-
withholding it because you're like that, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
All right. Anyways, Licorice Pizza, December 25th. Code word
SFV.
SFV. If you made
I like
it this
that.
far into the episode, DM us at the Grand Cinema Hotel on Instagram, SFV. If you're listening on YouTube, like and subscribe, comment. It really helps out. It really pushes the video. Share it with your friends. Take your friends to go see this because this is a friend movie more
Fuck
than
yeah,
anything.
it totally
yeah.
is.
Maybe take your parents to go see it around the holidays. Just tell everybody.
Take everybody.
Yeah, go
Tell everybody about
Everybody.
Licorice Pizza.
Bring
It's
the whole
definitely one
village,
you guys
yeah.
are gonna want to see.
That relative that goes, they don't make good movies anymore.
Show
Gotta
'em
take
this.
them to the movies.
Hold
Yeah.
my beer.
Yeah, hold my beer. All right, guys.
All right, y'all.
We're checking out. Thank you for checking in. Bye.
Have a good one, guys.